Hello, everybody. My name is Giset King. I am one of the co-founders of Cafe Azul TX Autism. We are in April, Autism Awareness Month, but you know that we have been talking that it needs to be more than awareness. It should also be about acceptance and inclusion. Here we have two wonderful ladies that they are a power to be reckoned in the special need community, and they're gonna be talking to us about their homeschooling journey. Okay, so Nichole, introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Nichole, known as the beautiful Nichole on social media. And I have one daughter, one child, no more. And she will be 14 years old and she is homeschooled. I have Autism Mom's Beautiful magazine, and I'm currently working on another nonprofit organization at the moment.
All right, fantastic. We have here Marta. Marta, introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Marta Brain, and that is brain like the brain in your head. I didn't believe it when I met my husband either. I thought, gosh, that's surely a typo, but it's not. I have two kiddos on the autism spectrum. My son is 12 and I homeschool him. And then my daughter is 10 and then she is in an Eastham elementary school. And then I do an Usborne Books and More business on the side, as well as utilizing that as a tool to kind of help bring support to families and also help to kind of educate the public about autism to bring more acceptance and inclusion.
Thank you so much. Okay, so, and either one of you can start. How was your experience, with, I don't know if your kid was in public education or if it was in private education or maybe both, but I want you to give us a little bit of an overview of, how that experience was. Was it a good experience? Was it a bad experience? How was it for you?
Marta can go. Go, Marta.
Thanks, Nichole. For my son, PPCD was amazing. We had an incredible experience with PPCD, but once we hit kindergarten, then we started to have problems with public school. So we kind of kept trying to stick with it. He was in structured learning lab, and we kept having to fight for his time in the gen ed populace, and it just over time from kindergarten up to second grade, he just got little and little and little time until he was just in a self-contained class. He seemed to be getting neglected, just kind of falling through the cracks. He was really getting underestimated. So he's hyperlexic. So he was reading by the time he was 2. He taught himself his letters, just super smart kiddo, but he was being sent the easiest readers possible. He was really bored. I didn't blame him for not wanting to read them. He was being penalized because of his disability, because he couldn't verbalize it. And the problem was, and I kept advocating it's like, yes, we can work on comprehension, but we need to be able to think outside the box. Let him be able to show us what he knows, make copies of it and let him put stuff in order or let him point to things. But ultimately, we just have kind of a broken system, and I couldn't allow time to slip away in order for it to get fixed. Now, I was part of a big movement to fix some things, and we were able to make a dent, but ultimately I couldn't wait for things to become perfect for, my baby's education. So then we moved him after second grade to a private school, which was a disaster. he was in the private school for 1 year, which was supposed to be designed for kids with autism. And he started having accidents. He started having self-injurious behavior. And I was just like, what is going on in this school? And I was up there volunteering. And so I started going up to that school and, you know, just was up there every day, and they weren't working with my son. He was, you know, being placed in a room with just all of the troublemaker kids, you know, and so they're just learning behaviors from each other. And he's just hurting himself and getting overwhelmed and not learning anything, and no one's working with him. And so I literally went up there and I started working with him, and I thought, why am I paying money to work with my own child?
Ridiculous.
I'm doing the work. I'm paying to homeschool my kid. So I was livid. You know, I talked with the administrator and was just like, okay, you know, you need to be educating my kid. You know, this is unacceptable. And you know, there were all kinds of excuses. Well, we're doing evaluations. It's like, you can't be doing evaluations for an entire year. Show me your data. You know, there was no data that was being taken. It was worse than public school, which I just thought things couldn't get worse because we were already in a pretty bad situation. And so she kind of sarcastically gave me this stuff to send home to do with my son, and we go home and we knock it all out in 20 minutes the first day. And I scan it in and I'm like, okay, what else you got? And I don't think she was expecting that. I'm like, my kid is smart. You have to take the time to invest in my kid. So I pulled him out and I decided that I was going to start working with him right then and there. It was a scary decision because, you know, you worry about
Recording. Okay, keep talking. All right.
So unfortunately, we are still dealing with the repercussions 3 years later of that private school, still trying to work on some of those behaviors because of that experience. But he's come a long way. I know what he's learning, and I know he's safe. And you know, we're working on coping strategies for when he has those anxieties. But yeah, we had just disastrous experiences for him. Now with my daughter, it's been another story. She is a lot more verbal and she can communicate with me what's going on. And she is in an elementary STEM program. I think if she had been in a regular campus, she wouldn't have been stimulated enough. So I don't think it would have worked for her. But because she was able to be in a STEM school, she is getting what she needs, and it's more hands-on learning. She is very smart, and she's able to do engineering labs and a lot of science, hands-on kinds of learning. And so because of that, you know, she's thrived at the campus that she's at. I don't think she would
she's on campus, so the only one that is receiving homeschooling is your boy, right?
That's right. So we had two different experiences.
Okay. And you know, and that happens, you know, because with my daughter, I have had different kind of experiences. It's still in school, but with different campus. Nichole, talk to us a little bit about your experience with Sinai, either in public school or private. I can hear you.
Just give me 1 minute. I'm gonna get Zanai back in the room. So 1 minute.
Okay.
I'm going back there right now.
Okay. And I can understand that while Nichole come, because Kyra is still in school, because I work full time, and usually Kyra have had wonderful teachers, like amazing teachers. And I am the kind of mom, like, if you don't know how to deal with her, like, I will get a meeting with you because I am a teacher. And I will tell you, if she's not writing correctly, you can do this. If she's not like focused, you can do this. Like, I work with the teacher, but there was a teacher that, like, for her, Cara didn't know how to do anything. Cara wouldn't work about anything. And I was like, if there's something that, if you have a routine for Cara, she does it. So if she's not doing it for you, don't tell me you have a routine, because that girl, like, I do something with her 3 times, it becomes a routine for her. So if she's not doing it for you, you are the problem. Nichole, talk to us about your experience.
Why do I love pressing this mute button, girl? Now I just don't want to unmute myself. I mean, goodness. So, excuse me for not unmuting myself over and over again. No, well, Zanai, she started school when they allow. I'm guessing that's age 3. That would be PPCD.
Yeah.
And she was actually the only student. So that's why she was able to get the one-on-one period. And it was great. Then once it came to kindergarten, then it was like, what is going on here? It's like, I'm confused. So once that took place, I had to start paying attention to certain things. I had to start paying attention to things that they would send home that she will work on. And I know Zanai doesn't like to write. At that time, Zanai did not like to color because she couldn't write. She couldn't count. A lot of things she thinks sent home to me. I'm like, she did that? Now, how did she do that? I'm confused, So what actually had me to go, I don't know about this, was, how when you have the school puts up let's just say the kid does something and they want to display it, and then parents come to walk around and meet each other, whatever that's called. That's that third week
open house.
So there you go, the open house. So I came to open house and I saw this beautiful, beautiful picture of my daughter on the wall. And the things that were attached to it, I was just amazed at it. I said, yes, my daughter likes Sprite, but the way it was written, it said my daughter likes Spirit E. So they misspelled Sprite. So we know Zanai didn't spell Sprite. So they misspelled Spirit E. They said she likes Dora the Explorer, but there was no R on the Explorer. It was Dora Explorer. That's what was said. Then it said something else, but everything was a typo. It was misspelled, and my daughter's picture is splattered like right in the middle of this. And you have this in the hallway for everybody to see, and no one has yet to catch. There's 3 misspelled words on here because we know Zanai didn't write it because she can't write yet. So that was the first thing that had me going, what in the world is going on up at this school? I could not take it. So from that, it was battles going on, and I was able to have her put into a private school that the district paid for. And I actually really love the private school. I have to give them credit for the fact that her behaviors were probably 2,000 a week, maybe, because they kept a chart. So she went from 2,000 a week to probably, if she's out now, I would say probably 3.
Wow.
So that happened within a year, maybe a year and a half. I didn't have to deal with the fighting too much and stuff like that. But as time went on, there's now a new principal at the private school. There's a whole new different team, and it just went from this great school to, and then also, what happened to, I had permission to say it. So what happened with Jean's daughter, Leah, I was thinking about the public school, but after what happened to her, I just don't feel like I could trust it. So I just said, I'm not going to put her through that and just let her be homeschooled. That was pretty much how she wound up being homeschooled.
Okay. So, and that was going to be one of the, when I think that you guys kind of already answered it about, like what was like the turning point that you decided to start homeschooling, because that is a big decision. So once you take the decision that, I cannot take this anymore, like what were the challenges that you guys faced? Because this is not like, okay, I'm gonna teach you. This is like, like special needs, it is like we need special materials, we need visuals, we need like, it's totally different. So what were one of those challenges or roadblocks that you guys experienced when you decided, okay, I'm gonna homeschool my daughter because that, or my son, because that's the best for them?
Well, I would say I just wasn't worried about that part of it. Her safety was just the more important to me. I figured that with her excelling as much as she did, reading, she can write a little bit now. She's very good at following directions. They already had started doing online learning because of COVID, so she started getting experience with online learning. So once I realized that everything that it would take for her to do school at home, it wasn't going to be harder. It was just more getting her in the routine of it. Because, my parents are very involved. She has another team of people that's very involved. So it's not only just me that does it. I just started now making it spread out to where it's, hey, she goes to this home and they focus on her learning how to make beds and clean countertops and wash dishes. She has a home for that she goes to. So that's 2 hours a week. And she has another home where she goes to where she strictly just worries about making her oatmeal. And then after she makes her oatmeal, she's learning how to do certain, everybody has a specific job for her to do. And she still does the online learning through TeachTown.
TeachTown. Yeah, that was another question that it was gonna come. Like, what resources were, like, when you guys decided, what resources do you use? So you were using TeachTown?
Yeah, I'm using TeachTown, and I also use her device. Now that she knows how to type, she's learning how to type her name and everything by memory. It's the same thing with the telephone. What she was doing at school, we're learning how to dial the number. We're learning how to FaceTime. We're also learning how to put the clothes in the dirty clothes. Now, when you start asking her to separate them, she like, I ain't doing all of that. She's not ready yet for that. So everything that she was already doing at school, learning how to make her oatmeal, now it's just taken from the school. But TeachTown has a transitioning program as well as an academic program. So she just started the transition program last week because I've just paid for it. So now she's going to be going to someone's home to actually do that. Because I found that she worked good with me. But I also find that certain things I really need her to get, I'm going to battle with her and it's already stressful. So I just allow someone else to do that and just pay someone else to do that.
And what is the cost of the TeachTown?
The TeachTown, well, the thing with TeachTown is you can do the basic, which is just basic. It's basic, but what it does is it gets to the level of your child. So I thought to now was a certain way, but it's going to let you know by you're not assisting at all to see. So I do it by month and it's $20 a month. Now in reference to their transitional program, they just stopped. Actually, it's so funny how they let me through for that, but they don't allow parents anymore. You have to go through a school to get the transitional program. So what I did was they don't want to give you the refund. I'm guessing that could be why they just went ahead and let me have it. So I'm going to probably must just sign tonight probably for a private school once it runs out to see if I can work with a program through that with the school.
Okay. What about you, Marta? What were the challenges? And one question. Do you work from home, Nichole, or do you work full-time outside of your home? Because I know that is something that parents, come to mind when they're going to decide about homeschool.
Right.
Are they at home? Do they have their own business at home? Or if they work full-time? So that would probably
I have my own business. So that's why it's easier for me than having to, so if I don't want to do something, I don't have to do it, and I can hold off and push it back till this time or something like that. So.
All right. What about you, Marta? What were some of the challenges that you had, and what resources are the one that you're using with your child?
Really, the challenges were the behaviors that had accrued from the private school, just helping him to work through those. But he was so relieved, honestly, when I told him that he wasn't going to go back to that school. And he works so well with me. He does really great with the one-on-one. He really is a people pleaser. We have we have our moments where he has a hard time with making mistakes. And so when he has a hard time not knowing what the answer is and he's worried about making a mistake, his anxiety starts to get up. And so we've had to kind of work on some coping strategies, work on critical thinking skills. So those have been more of the challenges, just kind of being able to work on some of those coping strategies so he doesn't escalate into this full, meltdown mode. But we've been able to kind of identify some strategies that have worked well for him. And then, I've utilized just lots of different curriculums. So I've done Easy Peasy. They have an online. You can also just get the all-in-one handbook. I personally like having just a handbook. So it's just a workbook that he can kind of work through. I also use IXL just because it goes along with the Texas TEKS, and it's a great way for me to evaluate him and see exactly kind of where he's at. And so I can kind of know where he falls as far as Texas standards. I also use that for maintenance of skills. I have my Usborne Books and More business, and I utilize books, just lots of books. We read books together. I use the books. There's also learning palettes. And so I use the learning palettes a lot. They're really cool. They're hands-on, where they're these tools where he can answer questions to language arts, reading comprehension, grammar, to math, and he can place these tokens on the answers, flip over, and can self-correct. So he's not getting any kind of verbal feedback from me, which would heighten his own anxiety. So he's able to kind of see it, and then we can go over it together. And so I found that being more of a kinesthetic, hands-on tool has been really valuable. I use learning wrap-ups as well. So we utilize tons of just different types of materials. I try to utilize lots of different ways of introducing the same skills. So that way, if one way doesn't work as well for him, then I'm just constantly introducing different ways of introducing the same material, and that way he's able to maybe recall it better, and we can just continue to maintain those skills and build upon it. But I've really liked the Easy Peasy curriculum a lot. We read constantly. I'll read a lot of nonfiction books to him, and then the Usborne nonfiction beginner books are what I was able to get him interested in reading independently, which was kind of amazing. I would set a timer for a minute. He would read for a minute and then stop. And now I have him to where he's able to read for up to 30 minutes. And we will set activity schedules to where he'll check things off. And we do a lot of, I try to do a lot of more logical learning. So for writing, I teach him to address an envelope. I'm not teaching him to write an essay. I teach him to make a grocery list. Things that he would need to know to be out in the community.
Learning.
Yes. For math, we do a lot with fractions. For baking and cooking, we do a lot with money. Right now we're working a lot on change. So if he were to purchase something, what change would he need to get back? So just working on those, subtraction skills and knowing what change should he be receiving back if he were to make a purchase. Some of those kinds of things. So that way, he knows when he goes out into the community and he buys something, this is what he should be expecting. And so I try to do more logical based learning and not, things that aren't going to really pertain to him. We also work on like dangerous things, going around the house and asking him, what could be dangerous in the kitchen, what could be dangerous in the garage, and him telling me, it's like, why is this dangerous? Having conversations like that, walking around the neighborhood and talking about what we see, what different people's jobs are, what community members there are, just having those kinds of social conversations, practicing greeting people when they come into the door, like when our speech therapist comes in, him opening the door to greet her, him being the one to say, hey, let me get the door for you, and when she's leaving. So working on social etiquette as well. We also do life skills. So teaching him to do his laundry, teaching him to make his breakfast, to get his own snacks. He's 12, so just trying to do age appropriate things. We just now gave him an old phone. And I mean, he kind of already had been going to the bathroom on a schedule, but we're trying to teach him some hygiene. So we have scheduled a bunch of different alarms in his phone, and we are going to have some data sheets in each bathroom and have him check mark, if he, peed, if he pooped, if he wiped, if he washed his hands, that kind of thing. So that way, we can make sure that he's doing everything that he needs to be doing and he's not getting distracted and forgetting something, but he's holding himself accountable. We also have to do a redistribution of water for him because he has rumination syndrome, where he will ruminate after eating. So after he eats, he does diaphragmatic breathing for 5 minutes. And then he'll have 4 ounces periodically throughout the day. And I taught him to just take his own data. So he will go and get his 4 ounces of water, and then he'll track his data. So he makes sure he gets his, enough of his water throughout the day. So he tracks his data. So I'm teaching him to track his data, and, we're working on just a plethora of things. So yeah, it's challenging in that I'm exhausted at the end of the day. I'm tired. I usually have to take a nap. When my husband is done with work, I'll usually have to lay down because I'm pretty tired. But it's totally worth it because I know he's safe. I know what he's learning, and he's made so much progress.
And I think that this is very empowering for parents, because maybe there's some parents that feel the way that you guys felt, but they are like, I am not an educator, I didn't go to school. So I think that this is very empowering for them to hear that you don't need to do it alone. Like there's some sites, there's some resources that can do it for you. And there's a big misconception with homeschooling. And I, as an educator, I noticed that when we were in COVID, because this school in COVID, they had kids connected for 6 hours online. And real homeschooling, it should take like 2 hours, 2.5 the most, to cover everything. It is not the same in school when you're dealing with 20-something kids, when you need to do an introduction, when you need to things go, you know, quicker because there is not a lot of that fluff. You know what
And
I mean?
you have to realize that, as I have to tell all parents, you know, we have to do what's best for our kid, you know, and people are going to give you all these things, you know, you should do that. You know, at this point, you know your kid. Now, it doesn't mean you can't challenge your child, you know what I mean? But, you know, after some time, you know, you have to organize it the best way for you. You know, that's the best part about it. You know, you can organize it. And sometimes, you know, like Marta was saying, you do get tired. So, you know, that's why I have to have a team of people for her, because, you know, like she knows her both of her kids and how they operate and how they deny, you know, will look at you crazy. If she looking at you, why are you working with me on that? When I get this person, because she's used to that person, you know? And so that's why I tell parents all the time that when you hear a story from a mom, that's what works. That's what she chose. But that doesn't mean you can't take any input from it to put it to you. You can't do the same thing as that parent does for their child, because that's why autism is different. But you can still say, let me call that parent. Now, how did you say you did that? I'm going to try this. But if that worked for that parent and did not work for you, that don't have nothing to do with the parent and that child. That has to do with the fact that your child may not learn it that way. Your child may learn it in a different way. It may take your child a year to learn that concept versus her child could take 3 months. Mine could take 6. It's just all about an understanding that you can frustrate yourself more because you're looking for something that you're not going to find, because you think that if you do this, then it's going to be like boom, versus say, oh, I should try this way, that way. I never thought about, you know. And so I hear parents say, well, I can't do the school curriculum. Well, no one said you have to do school curriculum. So you have to do school curriculum. You know, you may have a child that doesn't like online at all. You may have a kid that doesn't like, everything is hands-on, where you have to do everything from flashcards to everything. But if it works, that's just what works, you know. And people are gonna say, well, why you didn't try that? Because I didn't want to. You know what I mean? I tried what was best and less stressful and frustrating for me to get through my 3 hours or my 2 hours or my 30 minutes, then a break, and then, you know, and that's, I think that's the myth that parents are confused about, that when they look at certain curriculums, well, my child can't do that. Well, good for your child, because mine can't either, girl. So this is what I'm doing. You know, that's where a lot of times you have to open yourself up, like Marta was saying, that she has all these different things that she does. She didn't just close herself to one thing, and she started learning her child to see how he works with certain things. That's what really works for her baby. But when you call Marta and you say, well, you said, no, I said what worked for my kid. You asked. I didn't tell you it was going to work for your kid.
Exactly.
So that's where the, you know.
And this was year 3. I mean, you know.
Right.
It took time. I mean, that's another thing, is it's okay if it takes time to figure it out. You know, I think that as parents, the scariest thing is feeling like you're losing time trying to figure it out. But it's really okay to take some time, even if it takes up to a year, to figure out what works for your family. Because once you do figure it out, then you start really making some strides, and it's okay. You know, it took me a while to figure out, you know, some things that were going to work for Caleb. He's very visual and hands-on. And so I tried a few things, and he's not an online learner. It's too auditory for him, and it doesn't work, at least not now. Maybe later on down the road that will change. But yeah,
and just to let you know that you can still be connected to the district. I think that's the other confusion. If you choose to have speech and occupational therapy, you can still have those things along with it, but you still have to keep in mind that if you're already going through headaches with a speech therapist through the district and an occupational therapist in the district, it probably won't change because you're homeschooled. So this is where you have to make certain decisions to say, like I have speech and we do OT as in reference to consult. Now, I understand when she was in school, I didn't do consult at all because I'm like, there's no consult if she's in school. There needs to be direct. Now that we're at home, yes, we can do consult and the speech is still direct. I take her actually to one of the offices and I'm sitting right there. It's just me and her and the therapist. So you still can do certain things, but again, you don't have to. But if you're still connected to the school district and you're in fear of not finding a curriculum, they have a curriculum for you if you choose to do it at home.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. And there's a lot of curriculums that have every single lesson plan laid out. Like you don't have to plan a thing if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Now, if you really love to do that kind of thing, you totally can, you know.
Exactly.
Like,
But parents need to be very careful because sometimes teachers send way too much work than the student really need to do.
Right.
And sometimes they don't even grade it. They don't even, you know, so I remember that was happening to Kyra once. And I was like, until you show me that you grade all these papers, she's not gonna do anything more. Because I really think that it's just busy work. When you show me that you're doing something with that work and you're getting data and we're getting progress, then I'll give you the other one. Because it just shows that you're just sending over extra work just to penalize because we, you know, call out to your supervisor because you were not doing your work in the classroom. So that's what it seems. So until you show me that you graded this and that you got some data from that, then we're not gonna do any more work at home. Because and again, I was appalled of a lot of things that I was seeing during COVID about the amount of work that teachers were sending home and how overwhelming it was for parents. And another thing that I want parents to understand is school is from Monday through Friday. But when it's your homeschooling, you are the boss. You are the boss. I remember a friend of mine that again, she was not happy. You know, she's a very like Christian person, and she noticed that there were some things that were happening at school, some books, some stuff that she didn't feel comfortable or she didn't want her kids to be exposed, and she decided to homeschool her kid, but she was working full-time as a speech therapist. So her mom was taking care of the kids, but then in the afternoon, like she will work in homeschooling with them, but it was more like 4 days. And it was like 2 days during the week and 2 days during the weekend because it was what worked for her. And the kids still like did amazingly great. And they, you know, so that is another thing. Like just because it's Monday through Friday in school doesn't mean that has to be your case. Maybe you're gonna be Thursday through Sunday because it's what you can do. And I'm gonna ask you an honest question to these parents that are gonna be hearing this. Do you think homeschooling is doable for a parent that is working full time?
It's be hard to answer that because, you know, like I do stuff on the weekends too. She goes online during the weekends also. The reason why I said I don't want to answer that is because, or to say that yes or no to that, because we also have to get into the mind frame of being a parent of a child with special needs. We have to also get into what other loads do you have? What other things do you have going on? You know, when you have a child on the spectrum, everyone's level of spectrum is different, you know? So if your child is a child that exhibits a lot of behaviors, I don't know if you're able to homeschool, because giving that child that break from you and you a break from that child is that way you're able to bring your mental back where it needs to go. So this is why with Zanai behaviors improve. But if Zanai would have still had the behaviors that I had seen at the age of 3, 4, and 5, I can't say that would have been successful for me, because I would have had to figure out how to contour the behaviors before I could even get to the academics, which is how she winded up at the private school. They said we have to fix the behavior before we worry about the academics. So that's the reason why I don't want to say that it can be, because then we're getting into the basis that every autistic child is the same. I mean, we have some that have 3 or 4 on the spectrum, to a little bit worse than, and I don't want to say worse in like badness, meaning that behaviors could be worse than the other two and things like that. And so I can say that it's doable, but I can also say that I could really understand how that would be a hard thing for some individuals, especially having children on a spectrum.
It could be
I think
doable,
it would,
but parents need to understand, like, if the benefit of the homeschool is gonna outweigh probably the burden that it might cause emotionally or mentally, based on
Mhm.
the behaviors or where the kids are. Because again, like you have said, there's some kids that maybe they're not verbal, but they don't have like a lot of behaviors. But the other day, my heart was broken because there was a mom that his boy was getting into, you know, pre-puberty. He's 12 years old and he's hitting her every day. And the other day, he hit her so hard that she blacked out,
Oh
and
my
he's
God.
12.
Yeah.
And she has a 9-month-old baby. So, like, you know, that's very difficult, so I think that if a parent is interested in homeschooling, they also need to know, like, how manageable the behaviors are and how that might affect the family dynamic. Because
Yeah.
as caregivers, and we love our kids, we love them,
Mhm.
and if you're married, you love your husband, but you can love someone with all your heart and you still need some me time, because just because you love somebody doesn't mean that they're not annoying.
Mhm.
I have a 12-year-old. She doesn't have any special needs, and sometimes she's annoying. And I'm like, babe, girl,
You better not say that about my baby. But go ahead.
yes. I'm like, I need a break. I love you, but I need boundaries. I'm going to close my doors. And for the next hour, I need to do my workout, and I don't want anybody to talk to me because I need my me time. I need to reset. I need to recharge. So I'm gonna be the best. I want to be the best mommy that I can be. And if I don't take that hour for me, get a good sweat, a good Zumba dance, or do my weights, like, I don't know if that's gonna happen. So
Mhm.
let me fill my bucket, and then mama is gonna be amazing. But I need
Mhm.
that time,
Yeah,
Mhm.
so
it depends on the kind of support system you have too. If you have a village that could help you,
Right.
it could maybe be possible, but if you don't and it's just you, that's something you also have to consider. For my husband and me, we don't have any family that could help us. So, we were fortunate enough that I already was home, and my business is something kind of like Nichole's, where I can be flexible in how I do it. Um, but yeah, if I'd been working full time and dealing with really intense behaviors, it's just hard to say. I don't want to say it's not doable, but you definitely would have to really think about the pros and cons, and what kind of support system you would have in place.
Because having that is another thing is important, because I have to say, my parents are very involved. They both retired after Janai had some incidents at the school. They were like, ugh. So they just both retired to help when she was in school, to take her back and forth, assisting with taking her to, because I understand she does have outside occupational therapy, and she does have outside speech. So she has these, which is 2 hours a week each one. So she has to be taken to both of those. So, so they assist me with that. And they just have to have her at their house 3 or 4 nights a week. So even though I'm having to do all the work, I still get the break in the evening times. And so that's another reason why it's just really hard to say that it's doable or not doable. And I have people that have called me about it, and I would tell them that if you're going to talk to someone and you already know that they're judgmental, why would you call them to ask them about something like this? I always recommend that you call someone that can understand the story, but can also be honest with you about your life. To say, I'm listening to you about your life. And are you sure that you're able to do that? Because when I'm listening to you, you're telling me that your boss doesn't allow you to be off at all. You're saying to me that your boss, if you call in, gets upset when you have to go pick your child up from school. So how are you going to homeschool with a boss that's not even going to be compromising? You know, the honesty has to be there in the conversation, because even though we want something, my boss just has to understand, but you're the only person paying the bills in the house.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you can provide that support, but don't provide the support. Yeah, autism moms rocking. No, tell me your story. Like, are you able to, or do you only get 2 weeks off a year? You know, these are things that, you know, are you willing to lose all of that in some situations where you're like, I can't, I got to take care of my child. This is where you have to make a decision for yourself as a parent, you know? So I've been called, and I'm honest about it. I'm like, okay, so you told me that you got wrote up 3 times. So are you going to keep the job, or are you going to let the job go? Because it seems like the job is going to let you go if you do this, and you know, are you trying to get unemployment? You know, little things that I kind of have to throw out, you know, but it's all about caring, you know, but having that team it really does help, even if it's one person. Some people have 2 or 3, but just that one person that's going to say, I'm going to help you, even if it's 20% for the week, it helps more than you know. But I do have to get off, you guys, because you know I have to help advocate for someone. So I really enjoy both of you guys. I haven't seen you guys, and I still have my cute picture of us together that I post sometimes here and
I
there.
love that picture.
Cute. I love that one too.
Yes, I love that picture. Yes, I do. So, but yes, thank you so much, Giset. I'm
Thank you,
sorry, you know, I have to
Nichole.
get off because it's art season, you know. So,
I know.
all right, I love you
Thank
both. You
you.
guys have a
Thank you
good
for
day.
your
Oh,
time, beautiful.
love you too, Nicole.
Bye, y'all.
All right. We have around 3 minutes left, and we're going to cover 2 things real quick. Number one, I think that is very important that if a parent is interested in homeschooling, that they're honest with themselves,
Mhm.
because they might be not happy with how things are going in school. But if you never work with your kid at home, like, you know, because for example, with Kyra, we do a lot of incidental learning. You know, like today we were in the zoo. So she was reading the signs in the zoo. And the other day we were making cake and she was following directions. And every day when she goes to sleep, I ask her questions. What did you do? And like when she get out of the car, like, how was your day? And I practice with her social interaction, like when you get in the car, talk to me, talk to your sister. And up to when she was 10 years old, like you would ask her how was her day, she wouldn't answer.
Right.
And first we started with hand signals, like good, bad. Then she started like reading some prompts about today my day was, and then she could say any other phrase. And now she can do it independently. But like if you're a parent that your kid got home and he just getting the tablet on the TV until he's going to sleep, I'm not judging you, but you know, if you are not already working with your child, it's gonna be pretty challenging to be the sole source of instruction. Because like when the COVID came, that I was Kara's teacher, she has worked with me before because we work on writing, we work on reading, we work in different kind of things with her. So
Right.
it was not different for her to see me as mom, and also as an educator.
Right.
But if you have never been working with your child, I would totally, well, I don't know what your opinion is gonna be, Marta, but I would totally um advise that parent to start working in small things with their kid. like small, like there's so many resources out there. There's, if they need help with writing, there are the wiping boards with dry erase. You don't even need to have a printer machine. Like just
Mm-hmm.
practice there. There are like puzzles that deal with addition and subtraction and things like that, hands-on things. So I would totally recommend like work like 5 minutes with your child every day and see how they respond and how you react. And then if you have been able to work with them at least for 30 minutes, maybe that is progress. What do you think, Marta?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I've always been a real hands-on parent from the time my kids were little. So I always was working with them, regardless of whether they were in school or not. So I completely agree with you. I think that that's really important to establish that rapport. And I think that that's a really good idea. And that's something I use all the time as a dry erase board. It's really easy. You can use that for anything. You can use it for practicing writing their name or address or doing math. I use it for like an activity schedule. So you could have them practice, just following a schedule to do, work on independence and following independent tasks. So yeah, it doesn't have to be super expensive either. You can get some pretty inexpensive items from the dollar store or Walmart or Target, and just start kind of working with them, read to 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 them. That's one of the biggest mistakes that I see that parents make is they stop reading to their kids. And we have such a literacy crisis in the United States. And our kiddos, they're in there. They might not be able to verbalize it all, but there are times where Caleb will surprise me and he'll say something, and it's something that I might have read to him a couple years ago. I'm certain he's got eidetic memory, but and not all kids do, but I mean, they're taking it in. So if nothing else, read to your kid.
Yeah, and that interaction is so important, and I have one, what will be, if a parent, and again, I know that this could be like a very different like number depending on the child, depending on the materials of the parents. But for example, if the parents need books, they don't need to be buying books. They can go to the library and get the books to work with their child. Also, because sometimes as parents, like we're working with our child, but we need a little bit of a break, there is a site that is called Tumble Books. And they have books, and they like reading it to the child. And there is also Epic.
Right.
It has free books, and it can read it to them. So you don't need a lot of money to that. Materials, like you said, they can go to the Dollar Tree, Target. Like in Aldi, I have found like whole books that is about letters, numbers. Like it's not a blank board. It has stuff there. And it has like initial sound, ending sound. You don't even need to make copies. Like it's just there. So you can wipe it out and use it again the next day.
Yeah.
So if a parent says, like is already like convinced, they have the conviction, they have the certain idea that this is gonna be the best route for their child. What would be kind of a ballpark amount of money that they would need to start in a basic way with their child?
Really, just depending on what materials they want, it really just kind of depends, because you can go to the library and find curriculums there. I've known several homeschool moms that have gotten curriculums from the library and borrowed them and just utilized them that way. And they just had, paper, and they had, the kids, write down the questions, and they read from the books that way. Or if they wanted to make copies, or something like that. Yeah, there's free resources out there. My son is doing a typing program that's free, and there's programming, like coding programs that are free. There's a lot of free resources out there. So, you could even feasibly start with $20, really.
Do they need an iPad to do the easy peasy, and I will have to check Easy Town, or it could be any tablet like a Fire? Because, for example, there were some, like Kyra, when she was a little bit, she was little, she was like 5, 6. We wanted to have some extra practice in speech, and it was very limited, the apps that were available for the Fire TV, for the Fire tablet. It needed to be like an iPad. So I know that because iPads are super expensive. I was recently able to get an iPad for Kara because of that SSI money that the government sent to buy things for their learning. That really helped us, because if not, we were not able to afford a tablet. So are those kind of programs that are online tablet friendly, or does it have to be iPad?
I don't use the easy peasy curriculum online. I just get the $20 book off of Amazon.
Oh, okay.
And then IXL, I believe, does not have to be just the iPad. I think IXL, because a lot of teachers use IXL as well. So I think you can use that on lots of different devices. You can also just get on the computer and use IXL as well. So you don't have to have an iPad to do IXL. And I know for a while they were even allowing people to do that for free because of COVID. So there might even still be some options because of COVID. There were a lot of free things that were available during that time, and there still have been things that have kind of been available because of all of that. So yeah, really depending on what you do. I personally like having a book that I can hold. It's too hard for me to scroll back and forth as far as a curriculum. So for easy peasy, I just go on Amazon, and the books are like $20. And it's the whole curriculum for the whole thing, for language arts, for math, and you can get the parent guide to go with it.
And it's by grade?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can just get whatever level you think might work best for your child. I just kind of started conservatively with my son because there's gaps that you kind of have to figure out. That is going to be a challenge when you homeschool, is figuring out what some of the gaps are that your child has for their learning. They might know, for example, my son knew fractions, but he didn't know what odd and even numbers were. Now, once I pointed it out, he learned it, but it just wasn't something he had learned. And so I just started with the first couple of levels. We were able to kind of excel pretty quickly through math. Language arts was more of a struggle, but we were able to kind of move through that. And now we're in the level 3 and we're working through that, and we're just going to keep working our way upwards. And then I'm doing the same thing with the learning palettes. Those are a little bit more expensive, but if you get the base, if you just buy a base, we sell those with Usborne Books and More. The base themselves are just $15. Then you can just buy cards to go with them, and then you can use the base with all of the cards. And so then you can buy whatever level of cards you want, whether it's for reading or math. And so you don't have to keep buying the base.
All right.
So
okay, so we're so excited that you and Nichole were able to be here with us. I think that this is a lot of great information for parents, and I'm glad that we were able to talk in an honest way, because we were not glorifying homeschooling. We were just telling it how it is, and as a parent, you will make your own decision. But there's one more thing that I want us to tell us, Martha, because again, as parents of kids with special needs, even if it's homeschooling, like I am a teacher, and not of my girl, of other kids. And sometimes I am burnt out, because like everything, maybe there's a day that your child is very cooperative. There's another day like hormones are hitting in, or he has a lot of triggers, or there's allergies and he's not feeling good. And that day, it was not, it's not a day that you feel amazing about it. So how does Marta take care of herself? So, so she can continue doing this. What do you do so you don't burn out and throw the towel?
well, that's a really good question, and that's really important. So I do bubble baths with Epsom salt every night, as just a way to kind of decompress from the day. And that's kind of like over long term kind of helps my relaxation. And I read while I do that. So I read a lot. But I also, I am learning the ukulele. And so the music, brings me a lot of joy. I actually was a music major in college. And so learning a new instrument and just having that, even if it's just 20 minutes, working on the music and doing something for myself, that is uplifting, that brings me a lot of joy. And so I do that kind of for myself. And then I get dressed every day.
Yes.
For
your house, fix yourself.
I do not, I don't lounge around. That's just going, when you're home, it's too easy to fall into that trap of not getting yourself ready. So I get dressed, I do my hair, I put on my makeup. It makes me, feel my best about myself. And I'll, do my nails. I like color street. And so I'll do that. And so I do those kinds of things for myself. Of course, my husband likes it too, but really I do it for myself, and it makes me feel better about myself. And that also makes me feel good about the day, because if I was to just kind of lounge every day, I think I would just start to kind of slump into a depression. And I think that is a trap that really a lot of moms fall into, not just special needs moms, but especially if you stay home and you're homeschooling or you're a stay-at-home mom, I think it's just super important not to let yourself go. Get dressed, do your hair, put on your makeup, whatever it is that you do to get yourself ready in the morning.
Yeah, those pajamas doesn't make you feel sexy at all.
No,
like you're
ready
today.
make yourself feel your best, whatever that means for you.
You're today in your pajamas and you're like, I remember that there was a day that Kara didn't sleep the night, and I have been very open about this because I think that when we talk about it, we can educate people.
Mhm.
Like I struggle with anxiety and depression,
Mhm.
and especially when I don't sleep well, like that is a trigger for
Mhm.
the other things. And I was like, and that day everybody was complimenting me school. I put my green leather boots, I put a dress, I put my makeup, did my hair, and everybody was like, girl, look at you. And I was, you know what? I feel like crap, but I'm gonna fake it until I make it, and I'm gonna look good doing it. So, you know, so, and it's true, when you
It's the same
sometimes
for
when you're
me.
depressed or overwhelmed and you look at yourself and your face is shining like you were frying chicken, and your hair is crazy and your lips are dry, and that pajama make you feel like you're 20 pounds heavier, like nobody feel motivated like that. So
Yeah. So that is one big piece of advice that I would give to any mom that is a stay-at-home mom or that is staying home and homeschooling. Get dressed.
yeah,
And do
get
whatever it
dressed.
is that you do to make you feel good. Do your hair, if you don't wear a whole lot of makeup, that's fine, but do whatever it is you do that makes you feel your best.
Yeah, let me tell you something. When you do a sleek ponytail, just put two hoops, a little bit of lipstick, you're gonna look bomb. Just that
Yeah,
ponytail with jelly and those hoops, you're gonna be ready to tackle the day. You don't need a lot. So,
that's right.
so thank you so much, Marta. And we're gonna be um sharing with you guys what resources Nichole and Marta were using. Also, some suggestions, like if you are a parent, where you can find resources, because we really want to empower you and support you if this is something that you want uh, for your child. So, this was Marta Brain, Nichole Wilson, and Giset King. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like it, be sure to give it some like. Be sure to connect with Marta and also to connect with Nichole, because we want to continue helping you and empowering you. Have a great night. Bye. I'm going to stop recording.